Today is an inside day, so I figured I would go ahead and show you some of the things that I like to do in order to further the healing of my gut microbiome, which is currently jacked. I currently am, fluctuating in and out of making many different types of ferments. I like to make all different types of sauerkrauts. I make curtido, kimchi, cucumber kimchi, fermented carrots and asparagus and beet kraut, and all different types of fermented sauerkrauts and fermented vegetables. That's not the only type of ferment that's out there. I also make jun and kombucha on a very regular basis. I make milk kefir. I have recently just started to make a SIBO yogurt, and I'm just getting ready to start up my sourdough. I also like to make standard yogurt. I like to make yogurt or milk kefir cheese. Shucks, what else do I have going on? I like to make fermented hot sauces, honey fermented garlic. It's kind of unlimited what you can do with fermented foods. The reason that I like to make fermented foods is because it helps me heal my gut. But that's not the only thing. It makes things taste incredible. The fermentation process increases the amount of an amino acid called glutamine, which is glutamic acid, also known in the chemically awful world as MSG. But glutamic acid is a naturally occurring one, but it hits all the same taste receptors. Like people add MSG to things to make it taste incredible. Similar principle, just a more natural, non-Frankenstein form. The gut is technically every part of your digestive system, from your yapper to your crapper, and every single thing in between. The gut microbiome is the population of living organisms that are inside of your gut, like the yeast, bacteria, and all the different things that help you to be able to digest your food. If you have an imbalanced gut microbiome like I do, it's very difficult to digest food, as it can cause all different types of health ailments, things like skin rashes and hives, to some very severe complications depending on how severe the issue is and how your body responds to it. For me personally, the things that I absolutely know, diagnosed, that are going on inside of my gut microbiome is something called leaky gut. The cause of that is the inside of your intestine is made up of a bunch of cell walls that are supposed to come together nice and snug, tight like this. It holds everything that you consume within the walls of your digestive system. Somebody with a leaky gut, their junctions are a little bit loose. So tiny little particles can leak through and get into the rest of your body, wreaking havoc. For me, that tends to cause me to be very tired after I eat certain things. It also causes me to have hives, whether that's through things that I consume, but also through exposure to things like laundry soap. Very bad experiences. I do not switch soaps. And I also make my own soaps at home, so I know that I don't have any interactions with anything, because I don't know what actually causes it. And the second thing that I know that I have an issue with is something called SIBO, and that is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. That is caused from all of the bacteria and things that are supposed to be in your large intestines have crept up, for whatever means it might have happened, into your small intestines where they're not supposed to be. For me personally, depending on what I consume, that causes really gnarly bloating. That can look like, anywhere from like an hour after I consume something, I can look like I'm, like 7 months pregnant, and it's really miserable, and it sucks, but it only happens when I consume certain things. What that has caused for me to do is to go predominantly carnivore, because meat doesn't cause me any issues whatsoever, and it doesn't cause most people who have SIBO. In fact, I'm not aware of anybody who has SIBO that causes an issue for. It tends to be one of the safe foods that just don't cause an issue because of what is in the meat, versus more likely what is not in the meat. I don't want to stay carnivore forever. I don't want to stay keto forever. I want to be able to branch out, prepare different foods, eat a variety of vegetables. I just want to have some more variety in my life. So I am doubling down over the next little bit, and I'm going to kind of show you some of the things that I'm introducing, not necessarily introducing, but some of the tools that I am using to further the healing process that is going on inside of my body, so that I can have more variety, so that I, can have cabbage without fear of its nasty side effects. I hope you guys can overlook my delightful cinematography skills today, because it's pouring down rain outside. It is dark, not getting much light from the inside. I've only got that one light above me. Doing the best I can, which isn't that great. Anyways, the first thing that I'm actually introducing, this is my first, technically my second, but this is the first that I am starting to make this particular ferment. I read the book a couple years ago called Supergut by Dr. Davis, and he referenced in there a specific type of yogurt. It's not technically a yogurt because it doesn't have the required strains of bacteria to be considered a yogurt, but it's basically a yogurt product. And it is the SIBO yogurt made with Lactobacillus reuteri. This is my second time making it, but I haven't actually started to consume it. The first batch got really separated. It was like half and half curds and whey, and so I just used that batch to inoculate this one that finished up last night. The reason that this is so powerful for people who have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth is because Lactobacillus reuteri belongs in your large intestine. I always get those things mixed up. The Lactobacillus reuteri bacteria belongs in your small intestines. It's missing from modern society for the most part. It's a very fragile type of bacteria. It belongs in the small intestines, among other places. I'm sure it exists elsewhere outside of the world, but in our body, with the symbiosis with our body and the bacteria, it belongs in our small intestines, and that's its home. Basically, it helps to fight and defend things, and it keeps overgrowth from going into your intestines, and so it gets your small intestines back in alignment. This is one thing that really helps with that. I made this yesterday, I made it the day before yesterday. It's a 36-hour ferment. You need to keep it at 100 degrees Fahrenheit for the duration of the 36-hour fermentation time. And I was able to achieve that in my Excalibur dehydrator. I just set it to 100 degrees. I tested it on the previous batch to make sure that it actually does keep with 100 degrees, and the things inside of here will maintain 100 degrees temperature. You can't use a standard yogurt maker with this one because the temperature of that is too high for this particular strain of bacteria. And you can see it is a very, very thick ferment, and I did take a bite of it earlier today. I know it's delicious, but just in case. It's a little bit grainier than average yogurt, but it definitely tastes just like your standard nice, creamy, plain yogurt. And that is something that I really, really enjoy. The second ferment that I'm going to be employing in my gut health adventures, for lack of a better word, is something called milk kefir. This is something that has gone in and out of my life. I have made it, I have stopped making it, I've consumed it in great quantities, and then I just randomly stopped consuming it. I haven't been using it a whole lot lately, but the thing that I really enjoy about milk kefir is that it is like lab tested to be the most powerful probiotic on planet Earth. It has the highest concentration of bacteria. It has a massively, massively diverse population. There have been over 100 different strains of bacteria that have been tested to be inside of kefir. Not all are present at all times. They kind of vary based on the climate that you're in, based on the milk that you're using, as well as whatever grains that you have. Unfortunately, right now, I don't have my milk kefir ready to turn over the batch before I'm ready to post this video. If it does happen to solidify by the time I am ready to do this video, I'll go ahead and film it for you. I purchased the grains on Etsy. That's a fantastic way to purchase grains. You can read the comments, the reviews, you can ask the seller questions, read the description, and find out if it's a match with whatever type of milk you're using. Personally, I use a locally sourced raw milk from a local homestead, and they feed their cows organically and they're grass fed. So I really, really encourage people whenever possible and whenever legal to use raw milk, because it's such a healing superfood in itself, and then when you turn it into milk kefir, it is just that much more incredible. All you do is you take the grains that you purchase or you're gifted and you pop them in the milk and let them sit there for 24 hours. It is quite honestly the easiest ferment that I can think of. I honestly can't think of another one that is any simpler than milk kefir, especially on the bang for your buck on this one. Doesn't get any better than that. When I'm consuming this regularly, I consume between a pint and a quart per day. Lately, I've been doing it maybe like twice a week, and so I need to make sure that I'm consuming this daily. I don't know if it matters if you consume it with food or without, but it just tends to be my breakfast. Whenever I'm ready to start eating, I just have one of these with a couple of these powders that were prescribed to me by my naturopath. So I like to throw those in there, as well as a little bit of like a stevia powder, stevia liquid sweetener. It's It's very similar to yogurt, but it's more sour and it's more of a pourable yogurt. A lot of people call it pourable yogurt. It's a pretty true statement in consistency. The difference, however, between milk kefir and yogurt is that yogurt is something that they refer to as a transient bacteria, and that means that you consume it and it makes its way through your digestive system and either becomes food for the bacteria that is currently in your intestines, or it exits out the other end. Milk kefir, however, the bacteria inside of here populate inside of your digestive tract, and it can hold on, it reproduces, and it basically colonizes inside of your gut. So it's a great thing to add if you're trying to recover from any kind of gut dysbiosis, antibiotics, things like that. But it is also an incredibly powerful ferment. So if you're new to ferments or new to milk kefir, start small, maybe like start at, I'm not even joking, like a tablespoon, see how you feel, and add as you feel your body can handle it, because you can get a pretty gnarly Herxheimer reaction from it, which basically it's not anything dangerous for anybody that I've ever heard of, but it's basically like the bacteria inside of here does exactly what it's supposed to do, and it goes to war inside of your intestines, and you feel it. It feels like your intestines are warring against each other. It can cause, all sorts of digestive upsets. I don't really know what else. I've never had a Herxheimer reaction, but I hear it can be kind of intense for a couple of days, and then it subsides. But if you start slow and increase slowly, odds are you're not gonna have it unless you have a really whacked out gut. If you're new to my channel and we haven't met before, hey, my name is Anna and welcome to the Fermented Homestead. We live on a 30-acre homestead in southern Missouri, and I'm just bringing you along for all the things that we're doing around here. Do a lot of gardening content, stuff outside as well as stuff in the kitchen, canning, fermenting, all of the things. So if that sounds awesome to you, I hope you'll consider subscribing so you can stick around. The third thing that I'm gonna be doing is not necessarily related to gut health and gut healing, but it is a precursor to a video that I'm gonna begin working on. I planned on including it as my third ferment in this video, but the problem is that it takes a lot longer to make than I thought it would. So I'm gonna get started on the process of making that, and then I will bring you guys a video on it. And that is something that I had hoped would be able to help me to digest sourdough bread better. I love sourdough bread. I have had bread eliminated from my life for the most part, with little bits sprinkled in here and there, for a very long time. And being somebody who's been keto / carnivore off and on for so long, like, bread is just not a part of my life. It is, however, a big part of my husband's life. And, he'll buy rolls at the store, and he'll buy Hawaiian rolls, stuff like that. And then last time we were shopping together, I read the ingredients on it and I was like, can you please stop buying this? It is so bad. I forgot that I had asked him to stop buying it, but he remembered, and I was at the store. I was like, hey, you want me to get the Hawaiian rolls? And he's like, I thought you didn't want me to buy those anymore. And I was like, yeah, of course. So anyways, I offered to start making him bread, and I've made him a couple of different ones, and I was able to try it, and it wasn't torture like it used to be. So I know that I'm making progress, but I'm not there yet. So I want to be able to consume sourdough, so I need to get my starter up and running again, which I dehydrated last year because I just wasn't using it, and I did not want to be the one responsible for ending this strain of like 250-year-old sourdough that I was so blessed to be gifted. So we're gonna go ahead and get that sucker going, because sourdough bread is not just about the flavor, it's also about the fermentation process. All of the sourdough stuff that I've made in the past has been long fermented. I don't do just add a little bit to flour and then make the recipe like a lot of sourdough recipes call for. The entirety of the flour that I make gets fermented, long fermented. I'm no pro by any means whatsoever, but I have made a few things successfully. I've made a few things not successfully, but I really want to hone this skill because I think it would be a lot better for my husband if he's consuming it, and it is something that I am much more able to tolerate with my just messed up gut microbiome that I got going on. So let's rehydrate some sourdough. Okay, so I have this entire jar of dehydrated sourdough starter. I'm not gonna use all of it. So all I'm gonna do with this, you can weigh it out, you can be more specific, I don't care. So I'm just going to pour a small amount, doesn't take much. I was packaging this stuff up and selling it at local markets and stuff last year, but I'm most likely not gonna be doing that this year. So I don't know, maybe I'll list them on Etsy or something like that, but as of the filming of this video, it is not listed on Etsy. And then we're just gonna add enough water to kind of rehydrate it. Probably like, you know, look at it and be like, does that look like double? And that's it. It's super easy. Keeping a sourdough starter is incredibly easy, but there is a learning curve to learning how to make those beautiful loaves of the artisan bread and things like that. But most things, once you get the sourdough starter going good and strong, it's really pretty darn simple. It's a little more complicated than making yeast bread, but for me personally, in my gut healing journey, it is something that is worth the time investment if I want to be able to consume bread, which I kind of do. You know, I'm kind of to that point where it's like, it'd be really nice to be able to have a nice, good loaf of sourdough bread or make some rolls with it, some cinnamon rolls. You can even use the discard to make really healthy, over-fermented pancakes. You can make waffles with it. You can make Dutch babies, tortillas, pizza dough. You can make anything that you can make with yeast, you can make with sourdough. It just takes a little bit of forethought. It seems like a very complicated, very overwhelming process, but it's not. I am not somebody who has the time or the patience to do things that are overly complicated. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. I just haven't been doing it because I've been so busy over the summer. I wasn't consuming bread myself. My husband didn't really seem to care about it until recently, so I wasn't making it. And if you do get overwhelmed with your sourdough, you can always do what I did and dehydrate it. All I did with this was I spread it out on a sheet of parchment paper, very, very thin as I could get it, and I put a fan on it overnight and it was dry. I didn't need a dehydrator. In fact, it's not even recommended to use a dehydrator. It's not something that is a part of dehydrating sourdough because it will cause it to over ferment, and it will be, honestly, I don't know why, but you're just not supposed to do it. Then all you do with it, cover it up with a towel of some sort because it is a living, breathing organism. It does need airflow. Cover it with a rubber band, set it on your counter, wait till it turns into a nice goopy mess, and then you just feed it as normal, which is what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of days. And then after the next couple of days, when I know it's nice and bubbly and frothy and it just looks like a glorious ferment, then I'm going to start making stuff with it. Do I know what I'm going to make with it? Not yet. But it's probably gonna be rolls because my husband really likes rolls. I'm just gonna start small and then just kind of build on that as I gain the skills to make it. And if you wanna check out my introduction to fermentation, which is helping to dispel a lot of the myths that surround it in a fun and educational way, make sure you check out that video right there, and peace out, sauerkraut.